Ahoy, we're jumping into 7.4, which is about multiplying polynomials to solve equations. So this is a factored form, basically means you have multiple polynomials being multiplied. And we're going to use that to solve. So factored form, we're going to talk about zero product property is this idea right here. So if I have A times B equals 0, that means that either A or B have to be 0. And if either of those is 0, then you get a product of 0. I know, amazing. And then we have the idea of roots and repeated roots. So a lot of vocab, we'll get into that. Factored form is basically going backwards of what we've been doing for the last couple of days. Let's jump into an example of this. So here we have two factors. One of the factors is 2x. The other factor is x minus 4. And this product equals 0. So I'm going to go through this one, and then I'm going to have you answer B. So here, if for this first product of, or this first factor of 2x, I'll write it out here. So that's kind of what we got right there. So 2x is one of our factors. That's like our A. And then x minus 4 is like our B. And you're multiplying and getting 0. So it either means that this 2x equals 0, or it means that this x minus 4 equals 0. So then here for this 2x, if x were 0, where am I don't even know where to write that. There we go. That would be one solution. The other solution is if x equals 4. Because if 4 minus 0 is in there for one of my factors, that's 0, and I end up getting a product of 0. So there's two answers for this one, 0 or 4. Okay. And I think it's going to walk us through it. Let me shrink myself. Whee! Okay. And I believe it's going to walk us through that. So 2x being 0 is one of our options, or x minus 4 equals 0 is the other option. You solve them and you get 0 or 4. Okay, those are called the roots. So the solutions to our equations there, those are called the roots. So 0 and 4 are the roots of this first equation. All right, so now knowing that, see if you can figure out what are the roots for this second one. Good luck. All right, oh, wait. Oh, there's a way to check it. Okay, now that you can see how to check your answer, now I'll ask you that question again. Okay, so what are the roots for this second equation? Okay, so your two factors are x minus 3. So if x minus 3 equals 0, that'll be an answer. Or if x minus 9 equals 0, that's your other answer. When you solve them, you get 3 and 9. So the roots are x equals 3 or x equals 9. Okay, there we go. Let's jump into repeated roots. So repeated roots are when you have a root that repeats. It's obvious. All right. So sometimes, it'll be the same number. Let's do an example of that, shall we? Here we go. All right, so to solve this, this is not a repeating root. I don't know why they toss this as the first question for repeating roots, because it's not. Okay, so find the roots for A. All right, so we got 2x plus 7 equals 0, or 2x minus 7 equals 0. And then you got to solve them, and you get negative 7 halves or positive 7 halves. So the roots are negative 7 halves and positive 7 halves, or 3.5, negative 3.5. All right, what about for B? Okay, for that one, we got x minus 1 squared. So we got an x minus 1 times an x minus 1. This is an example of repeated roots because it's the same factor. So we only get one answer. It's just x equals 1 is our only root. So it has repeated roots of x equals 1. All right, so that's a repeated root is when you end up with the same factor. Okay, and then for C, how many roots do you think there are going to be for C? Yes, this one has 3 roots. Okay, so solve C. Good luck. Okay, so for C, you can solve for either x plus 1 equals 0, or x minus 3 equals 0, or x minus 2 equals 0. If any of those are true, the whole thing is 0. So when you solve them, you get negative 1, positive 3, and positive 2. Those are the roots. All right, this is a great page to copy down as examples into your notes. Enjoy. Okay, and now we are talking about how we're going to factor. So a lot of times you are not given these in like this A times B form. We got to turn it into that. So that's kind of doing the opposite of what we've been doing the last couple of days. That is factoring. So let me go over an example of that. And it's going to use the GCF, the greatest common factor. So here, we're going to factor out the greatest common monomial for this thing right here. So when you look at this, you think, oh, well, between these two terms here, what is a coefficient that I could use that's in common for 4 and 24? And it's 4. 4 goes into 4, 4 goes into 24. And then I can also pull out 3 x's from each of these. So 4x cubed is our GCF of these two terms. So that is going to be outside. We're like undistributing. So that's the factor I'm pulling out of each of these is 4x cubed. And then that's like my A term. Where's my eraser? Let me get an eraser. Okay. And then the B term is the other factor. So we have undistributed a 4x cubed out. That's like our A term. And we got an x plus 6 left. Let me enlarge again. Wow. There we go. Okay. There we go. So that is our factored form. If you want, if it helps, you can put that 4x cubed in parentheses just so you remember. That's its own factor. So then when you solve that, it's either 4x cubed equals 0. That's one thing you'll solve. Or x plus 6 equals 0. So these are the two things you'll solve for this problem right here. Okay, so let's click through how that works. Whee! Okay. Oh, that is clicked through. Look at that. I thought I was actually going to solve it. Anyway, so you get x equals 0 for the first term, or x equals -6 would be the solution to the second term. So if x is 0 or -6, those will be our roots for this thing right here. Okay, let's try this one. Okay, so try to solve this one, this 2x squared plus 8x equals 0. You're going to have to factor out a term first. In fact, let's ask you a question and then have you try to solve it. What is a good GCF? Well, what is the GCF for 2x squared and 8x? Yeah, it's 2x. So you're going to start by pulling out a 2x, which I'll do on here, and then I'll ask you the second question, which is what are the roots? Because it's having us solve it. So 2x will be the GCF you're going to pull out. So then figure out what's going to go in the parentheses and then solve it. So what are the solutions? What are the roots? All right, let's see how you did. So hopefully you factored out a 2x and got an x plus 4 as the other factor. Let me enlarge myself again. There we go. Oh, it's on the screen. I don't know. Why did I do that? It's on the screen. There we go. So these are our two factors. If you have questions or need help on that, just ask me during class. So then you're going to solve where 2x equals 0 or where x plus 4 equals 0. So you end up getting 0 or -4 as the two roots for this first equation. Okay, for the second one, notice that we don't have an equals 0. So the first thing you want to do is subtract 15n on each side so that you get a equals 0. So that one, take a look at that nice step, because in order to do this whole factor thing, the zero product, we have to have an equals 0, because that's the whole point of using a zero product. So if you subtract 15n on each side, now you have 6n squared minus 15n equals 0. Now you can factor out something. What is the GCF of 6n squared and 15n? Yeah, it's 3n. So you're going to pull out a 3n, and you get that. So now solve, find the roots of that equation. All right, so you're going to solve 3n equals 0 or 2n minus 5 equals 0. So you solve and you get 0 or 5 halves or 2.5. Okay, again, two more great examples to add to your notes for 7-4. And then the last thing we're going to cover is a word problem, of course, because you're going to have some of these. So you can model this arc right here. Oh, and this is why these have two answers, because anytime you graph something that has x squared, it curves. It makes a parabola. So it can equal 0 twice. There can be two spots where it crosses at 0. So we can model this with this equation right here. X and y are measured in inches, and the x-axis represents the floor. So there's our lovely fireplace. Let's find the width of the arc at floor level. So our roots, if you solve it, you end up getting 18 and -18, which they're going to walk through right there. And that tells us that this right here is negative 18. This right here is 18. So the total distance across the floor, if we're talking inches, will be the negative 18 to 18, which is 36. So 36 inches is going across there. All right. So anyway, that's what we're going to be working on. You got to be able to factor and then use the idea that two things multiplied equals 0. One of them has to be 0. Okay, if you have questions while you're working through it, let me know. And I will see you in class. Arr!